Well, that is amazing. Thank you so very much. I want to make sure that my full face is in the frame. It has been such an honor and a privilege to be here with you. I'm so excited. Let's give it up for everyone who was able to join us today, who took time out of their Saturday and was able to find the opportunity to join us on this powerful moment today as we're being able to be women in an inclusive area that is safe. And let's give it up for Reverend Marlene for actually organizing this. Can we do that? Can we get some features in the chat? Let's put it out there for us as well. This is really an opportunity for us to expand and grow. And if you give all of what you have in the next little while, I think you'll be able to get some really great nuggets out of today. We started with some foundational teachings. I mean, what a powerful revelation, right? And we didn't collaborate at all, but she spoke a little bit about identity, and we're going to talk a little bit about that as well as we continue the journey today. And it's important for us to recognize before I go into the material that we're doing today, I do want to pause and say thank you to Samantha for introducing me to Marlene, and I appreciate that. Samantha, sorry you didn't win, love, but it's okay. Maybe you'll get another do-over at another point in time. But thank you for the introduction to Reverend Marlene, and I appreciate that
You're
very much.
welcome.
Listen, we have and need to recognize that we have two worlds that exist. This is what we consider to be the external world, and then we have the internal world. And most people are focused on the external world, right? But we can control only the internal world. The external world is full of calamity, disaster, misalignment, is full of chaos. And there are some sprinkles of joy and happiness that exist in the external world. But the internal world is where our thought patterns lie. It's where our belief system lives and it resides, is where our identity is really housed. And ultimately, that is what we have control over. So I think it's important for us to recognize that that is where the emphasis of this presentation will be on today. As I was introduced, my name is Jennifer. I am a registered psychotherapist and an industrial psychologist. And basically what that means in terms of being an industrial psychologist is that I work with organizations around purpose, around organizational health, et cetera. Today, my focus is going to be around psychological health. And I do hope that you do find this presentation to be interesting. Do I have sharing capabilities? Just wanted to confirm that I do. Okay, perfect. It's okay, we can go ahead and take it. Whenever you let me know, I'll go ahead and share that. Today, I want to invite you to reflect on three powerful questions. So let's take a deep breath, and I want you to think. I want you to use your power of your imagination right now as I bring you into the room. And I want you to think about these three questions. What you choose to keep. As we're moving into this theme of moving forward, there are some things that we're going to need to keep in this season. What do you need to reduce or shrink? And what are some things that you absolutely need to stop? To move forward in your life and purpose with clarity, confidence, and courage, we are going to have to keep some things that are serving us well. We are going to have to shrink some things, and we are going to have to stop some. Okay. The topic of new beginnings is pretty relevant in this time of the year as people are thinking about how they want their lives to be. And most people are going to do this through the lens of resolutions. Is that your story? How many of us started off January thinking about, okay, what new goals? How many can you come off mute or put up your hands? How many people are thinking about what are the goals that they want for 2026? I need some hands here. Okay, good. Okay. Okay, so you don't have the share option. Okay. Let me see. Maybe I have to send you a request. So I've sent the request. So let me see if that happens. Okay, good. Yes. Okay. So we've been thinking about some goals. Perfect. Right. And these are usually things like, I don't know, eat more kale, eat more vegetables. There are things like, I want to be able to lose weight. I want to find a new job. And the good news is that these goals are very powerful and useful. But the challenge with this framework is that it's missing a key foundation. These goals exist in a larger context, and this is framed as who do you want to be? This means the general sense of who you are. I do need you to pause for 30 seconds and grab a pen. This is going to be interactive and is going to be more of a workshop than a presentation. So I need you to grab a pen. I need you to grab a paper because we're going to leave here differently than how we came. Okay, so let me go ahead and share my screen. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So we're going to title this, I would say, Moving Forward with Purpose and with Power. That would be the title of this presentation. What stays, what shrinks, and what stops. Now what we're going to do, we're going to spend some time talking about who are you? And I want to spend 90 seconds for you to just jot down a few things around if somebody were to say, who is Sharmila? Who is Jennifer? Who is Pastor Marlene? What are some of the things that you're going to jot down? I want you to spend a couple of minutes and do that, and we'll take it up in a minute. I'm going to stop sharing so I can see everybody. Okay, and whoever wants to come off mute can just jump off mute and let's talk about their identity. What do some people have to share? I'm going to apologize in advance, but I do kind of pull on people. So that's an apology I'm going to give in advance because I may call you out. Go ahead. What do people have to write down? What is their identity? Who are you? Okay, Selena, I do need you to come off. And I'm not using the chat feature for this. I know I'm a little bit directive, but I feel like I need to be in this session. So I need you to come off the chat feature. I need bold women in this class today. People are not going to hide behind cameras and people are going to show up, but I know people are in different circumstances. But if you can just come off mute, please, and tell me what those things look like for you. What is that for you?
Oh, did you call on me, Jen?
Lena. Yes,
Lena?
Lena.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
please.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I put in the chat there, the first thing that always comes to mind, because I don't know, I couldn't answer that question, honestly. Other than saying, yeah, I'm a business person, I'm a mother, I'm a wife, and so on. But what I really look for, what I really say to myself when I ask the question, who am I? I say, I'm a child of God. So that is the first thing that sets my frame of mind is I am a child of God. And then from there, I do everything based on the fact that I am a child of God. I can't hear you, Jen. You're off mute. You're on mute, sorry.
Thank you for sharing. And who else is going to be able to share a little bit about what comes up for them?
For me, Jen, sorry.
Go ahead.
For me, I just like the other person before, I was thinking of career and stuff, but I know that's not. So for me, what I wrote is, I am a child of God. I am loved by my family, for my family. I am confident. I struggle with being impatient, and I at times struggle with fear.
I love that, Winsome. Thank you very much. Anybody else want to be able to share?
So Legacy, Christian typed something in the chat. Did you want to verbally share that?
Sure. So I am a mother, a wife, friend, sister, pastor, leader, and the list goes on.
Beautiful. Thank you. Anybody else? I'll take one last person.
I can go.
I would say I'm a woman of faith. This is what I have written down here. And I'm a loving person.
and a woman of prayer. I love to pray about everything, and many times I'm tested with my patience, but God has been helping me to be loving and have patience with people.
Beautiful. Thank you, Esther. And Sam, I'll let you go.
There was one more.
Thank you. Am I allowed to go? Do you give me
Yep,
Yes.
go
permission to
ahead,
go,
Sam.
Jen?
Mhm.
Okay, thank you. So, I'm a Christian. I'm British, short, independent, intercessor, a tourist. I'm a daughter, a sister, an aunt, a friend, a godmother, restored from trauma and the healing continued, I should say. Kind-natured, giving, and a connector.
Thank you very much, Samantha. I just put something in the chat feature. It says identity is the strongest force in human personality. And that's an absolute statement.
Can you please repeat that? I didn't hear
I put
quite
it in
hear.
the chat feature.
Oh,
It's in the
oh,
chat feature.
okay.
Identity is the strongest force in human personality.
Strongest force.
The strongest force,
Identity
unequivocally,
is
with
the
research, bar none, it is the
strongest
strongest force in human personality
force.
because there is a need to stay consistent with how we define ourselves. So, how you define yourself is how you will show up. So, if you define and your identity is that I am capable, then that will drive you to seek out and accomplish things even when they are hard. Right? So if you identify yourself as a mother, those are things that you do. And oftentimes we recognize that that is part of our identity, which is nothing wrong with it. However, when those things shift, your identity perhaps will also shift. And we recognize that at times these things, because they shift, because we are inhaling and exhaling and we are in the land of the living, then that means that it's only a matter of time for the things that we are attached to shift. That job will change. The stages of motherhood will change. And if your identity is attached to that, and there's not many houses or levels of identity in your psychological home, then there are chances, then that's where we can get impediments to come in. That's where we can get stuckness. That's where we can get depression. That's where we can get isolation. That's where we can get anxiety, because identity is, and I will repeat it again, and I do want you to highlight this, it is the strongest force. So in other words, what does this mean? If you want to make change, because that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about the ability to go from A to B. And if you are looking for change to happen and to be sustained, it starts with an identity shift. None of us mentioned health. So when somebody sees me at a bus stop or someone says, Jennifer, do you want a cigarette? I say, I don't smoke. I don't discuss that. I don't negotiate that. I am not a smoker. Right? Because that is part of who I am. So I show up and I am informed by the decisions that I make in my life are breeded out of my identity. So today we want to expand your identity, not to say that a mother, a wife, a homemaker, a Christian, all of those things are not very much important. But we have a person in the Bible named Saul, right? God knocks him off of his horse and he ended up saying something that I found to be so profound. He says, what I once loved, I now hate. That is what we consider to be a total shift in identity. That is an identity change, right? If I'm to kind of give you an analogy for you to kind of think about identity a little bit more and why we can say that it is the unequivocal, and you hear me emphasizing that, and that is deliberate, it is the strongest thing that we have. If I can give you an analogy, let's talk a little bit about let's keep your brain aside for a minute. But if you think about your identity as a thermostat, okay, let's think about that, right? It is shaped in our early parts of our childhood, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We understand that is shaped from early childhood experiences, and other events can reshape that, and it can morph into other things. But primarily, we're talking about 0 to 7 years of age. And this presentation doesn't have enough of a timestamp for us to go into that. Maybe if I'm invited back again, we can talk a little bit more around these early belief systems that are developed. But for today, I just want to kind of give you some nuggets, some sprinkles that you're going to take in and that you're going to make some really profound change with, right? So if we're talking about identity as a thermostat, let's say you like the temperature of 23 degrees. This is what you are comfortable with. It might be money. Maybe you're used to $30,000 a year. Maybe you're used to $100,000 a year. Maybe you're used to solid relationships. Maybe you're used to being 150 pounds. Maybe you're used to saying no more than yes. Maybe you're used to boundary setting. Whatever that looks like for you, right? What is it that you are used to? What the degrees go down, then you know what happens? We feel the pressure to change. So whatever we're used to, if we're comfortable with making $40,000 a year, and now we make 30,000, that pressure, because it's identity, right? There is pressure to go back up to that $40,000, right? And the brain kicks in and allows you to push. The brain will naturally get you because now you're so uncomfortable. The brain will get you to pivot and to activate all your resources to be able to get back to what, again, is your set point. This is your identity. So I am a mother that has dropped, right? That means I'm still a mother, but my children have left. That means I try to get back to that identity pitch, and I try to galvanize all of my resources. I'm at my kids' house every weekend, even though they don't want me there, right? Because I'm trying to get back to what my definition is of identity. But what happens if it goes the other way? That's if it drips, if it drops. What happens if we take this course and we were motivated and we learn about identity, and now, oh my gosh, I want to write a book. And I'm not comfortable with $40,000. I want more. I'm not comfortable with 150, weighing 150 pounds. I need to lose weight, or I need to gain weight. I'm not comfortable with that toxic relationship. So we come out of a session like this, we're galvanized, we're motivated, and we're like, oh my God, I'm going to call my author. I'm going to do the work. I'm going to put pen to paper. I'm going to write that book. Creativity comes out. That's not 23 degrees. Then we have self-doubt. Then we have self-sabotage. Then we have imposter syndrome. So going back to my initial statement, it means that the strongest thing that needs to shift for us is our identity. When we do something, we reinforce this identity. So ultimately, we want to be able to say, I am the kind of person that does what? Take 90 seconds. Write down, what is it that you're looking to become that you currently don't associate or identify yourself with, that you want to work on starting today? I am the kind of person that walks. I am the kind of person that prays all the time. I am the kind of person that submits. I am the kind of person that eats kale. I'm the kind of person that really rushes home to be able to cook a meal rather than purchase it. I'll give you 90 seconds to be able to do that.
The kind of person.
Yes.
Yes.
What kind of person do you want to become? What kind of person do you want to name? Who do you want to be known for? Okay, I want you to tuck that away a little bit. I'm going to share my slide for 90 seconds. Can everybody see it? Yes. Okay. Now we're going to shift gears a little bit. Tuck that away. And let's talk a little bit about what stays. What in your life reflects your true value and purpose? What blessings, gifts, or truths fit this category for you? And I really like to anchor that in the spirit, the fruits of the spirit: joy, peace, forbearance, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. So taking a pause for a minute. If it is that I want to be the kind of person that eats kale over cake, then I can actually really reroute that down deeper to say that I want to be the person that has the spirit of self-control. Right? Are we getting it? I'm going to stop sharing so I can see your wonderful faces. I can't see it when I'm sharing in share mode. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about what stays. People tend to make the most resolutions on their outcomes, right? I want to be able to lose 150 pounds, right? Those are the classic conditions, right? I want to be able to reach this particular income. These are what we consider conditions of worth projects. When I get there, then finally I will actually be able to be happy. So we work towards what we consider to be outcome goals, right? Can I get a yes or a yes? You got that?
Yes.
I
Yeah.
want to make sure I got everybody,
Yep.
right? So when we talk about traditional New Year's resolutions, we talk about setting yourself up, we talk about moving forward, we talk about embracing new beginnings. People usually start with this, okay, well, what do I want, right? What do I want? And then the second category that people focus on is that they then talk a little bit about the behavior. So the outcome is I want to be 150 pounds, right? That's the outcome. Then the second category that people focus on is the behavior. So to be 150 pounds, what I want to do is I want to be able to wake up earlier. That's a behavior I'm going to do. I want to be able to wake up earlier and go for a walk for 20 minutes, right? The outcome, I want to lose 150 pounds. The behavior is what I want to do is I want to go for a walk. I want to be able to eat more kale. And I have a love-hate relationship with kale, by the way. That's why I keep on using it. Right? I want to be able to eat healthier. Right? And they hardly talk about their values.
Yeah, good point. The value.
We hardly talk about the values. We think about having, doing, and being. I want to have more, therefore I do more, therefore I will become more. You get that? We want to have more. I want to have a house. I want to have more friendship. I want to have whatever, right? I want to have a better relationship with God. So therefore I pray more. Therefore I will become deeper connected with him. Right? We think about what we want to have. Then we think about the middle part, which is what we are then going to do, the behavior, and then we think about the being. But there's an interesting study that came up a few years ago by Warner. And Warner pointed out that what is more effective is actually being, doing, and having. So who do I want to be? When I think about who I want to become, who I want to evolve to, right? The state of being is a much more meaningful place to start and is a much more sustainable place to start. So we have it backwards. We need to think about being, doing, and then having. I want somebody to type that in the chat feature, please. We need to go from being, I want to be the kind of person that shows up for my friend. That's the kind of, I want to be reliable. I want to be no, I want to be a person that's a giver. I want to be a person that actually is conscious around the things I put in my mouth. That's who I want to be. That's who I want to embody. Right? And I know most people have a tough time with identifying their values. So let's do some work in this area. Okay? Because this is where the majority of the work will come from today. Right? So remember, we're talking about identity, and identity filters into values. Okay? Anybody not get it? I want to make sure that I have everybody, because this is important stuff. We got some good foundation in the beginning. I want to make sure I have everybody. Okay, who am I? Right? Now, what values flow from who am I? But this is really tough, because when people think about values, they think about, I want to be honest, I want to be loving. And those are wonderful values, but there's much more of a broad spectrum, just like emotions. People think about emotions, they think about anger, and they think about love. But there's so many more emotions that are there. So there's a whole body of emotions. So again, the typical sense is that I want to have a lot of money, have a lot of friends. And in order to do that, I need to do X, Y, and Z. And so to help us today, let's develop a story about your life that starts by tracking the embedded should that you have adopted. This is really hard. I want us to stay there. This is some deep work, family. I should be married. Right? What are the shoulds that have come up in your life for you as a woman? I should have children. These are embedded societal, inherited values that you may have just done, and you may perhaps have loved it and may have adopted it as well. But we're doing some deeper work here. Right? So these are the shoulds that have come. I should have money. I should be silent. Here's a big one. I should not take up space. As women, what were the should statements that were part of your immediate family? And what were the should statements that were part of your broader cultural context? Okay.
Do we speak?
If you want to, yeah, sure.
Well, the one thing that I was thinking, yeah, I would say, I think one of my things was I should be smarter. Yeah. Lena. And how has that showed up? Do you mind if I double click on this a little bit? Yeah. So how did this should reinforce your behavior or influence your identity? Well, I'm always looking for ways to be smarter. I think that, if that makes sense. I'm never, well, I know I'm never happy. Like I'm never smart enough for me, right? So I look for validation in that area, but even though I get validation, it's never good enough because I'm not smart enough.
Right. Thank you. It's beautiful. Thank you for being vulnerable with us today. Yeah. And I want to double click on this a little bit and zoom into her story a little bit, because the understanding is that the issue of being smart is not my issue. The issue of being financially independent is not my issue today. I want to make sure that's clear, right? The issue is that what did you internalize, right? That should to mean. It is about avoiding some kind of punishment. So if it is that I'm not smart enough, was there punishment associated with me not being smart enough? Physical, psychological, emotional, not necessarily physical.
No, there wasn't. Right. It was just there wasn't. It was just, I don't know where it came from, but
then here's where it may be. Disapproval. Is it that if I wasn't smart enough, is there some kind of disapproval that I received? Right? You don't need to answer that. We can reflect on it, right? Or even seek out some kind of a reward. So if I am smart, then I get a reward. So now I've created an identity with me being smart enough to therefore get a reward, and that becomes part of my belief system.
Mm.
Right?
Maybe could it be also that I was putting a lot of pressure, like in school, because I don't do well under pressure.
Well, you're talking to a therapist, Lena, and
Yeah.
so I would say it's never
Never that simple.
what it seems, right?
I know.
I would say
I
it's
know.
never. And so even when we talk about it, when we talk about this ability to put pressure on ourselves, I would say to you that when you came out of your mother's womb, did you know anything about pressure?
No.
It's taught,
Yes.
right? So there's
Oh, that's
something.
true.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
We learn these things, right? And so again, whether it's through our internal family systems or whether it's through the greater culture, these things are learned. They're learned behaviors. So, and there is an appropriate amount of pressure, right? Which we'll talk a little bit about later on, which I think is important for change to happen. There is an appropriate amount of pressure that's needed. But this internalizing pressure and the outcomes that come or do not come, we're starting with, what is my value? Who am I? What is my identity? I'm mindful of time. So Reverend, please keep me on track, please, because I could be there all day. So please keep me on track. Okay. All right. Yeah. So are we getting it? Right?
Yeah.
We're learning about our identity. So going a bit further, let's connect the value. For example, they say women should be seen and not heard. Right? So on one side, we can talk a little bit about what did they say that you should do. They said that I should be smart. They said that women should be seen and not heard. They said I needed to be married. They said I had to have children. Right? So that's on one side. I want us to take a piece of paper. On the one side, let's put what they said down. And if we're still looking for, let's say, if we're still looking at the value system of they say that women should be seen or not heard, what do I say? This is what they said. We want to integrate, right? This is what they said. Women should be seen and not heard. What do I say as I show up today on February the 7th? Do I agree with that sentiment? I say it's okay for women to be seen and heard. So the value that comes out of that is equality. The value of expression. So I really recognize that I value equality. That's a really big driver for me. I value expression of people's opinions.
Oh, maybe that's where it came from. Equality.
So right now, the exercise we're doing is trying to figure out and narrow down the kind of values that you're wanting to work on. Right? And we won't have enough time to do all of this work. This is much more deeper than that. We would need breakout sessions. I would need to go around the room, but I want us to start to titrate this down into value, because it would be a disservice for me to go into the other stuff if we don't talk strongly about identity. We need to shift our identity. Okay. So another way to find our value is to think about the deepest possible want that you have under all of this, just a kind of life review of who you want to be, which is what we started off with doing, a personal story of how you want to show up for yourself. And another way is to take somebody you admire. So let's say you admire somebody and you're struggling to find an identity, but you really admire the way that somebody does this, not from a jealousy or envy perspective, but you admire that person's resilience. You admire how that person can assertively communicate. You admire something. So you can start by looking at what you admire to then think about, again, what is your value? Okay. Anybody want to share with me some of the values that they showed up with? You can just come off mute. Right, go
I
ahead.
would
Who
say
wanted to say?
authenticity.
Authenticity. Beautiful. So you value authenticity. So that means that even though it's hard, I'm going to speak my truth, right? I
Amen.
value authenticity. Yeah, I love that. Who else wants to talk about a value that they have?
Authenticity, yeah.
I need one more. What's a value that somebody has that they want to be able to be bold enough to share?
I think I value compassion.
Compassion.
That lens.
Yeah, yeah.
I have trustworthy.
Value being trustworthy. So I want to show up as, tying that back to identity. I want to be known for being compassionate. I want to be known for being the kind of person that's authentic. I want to be known for the person that is trustworthy. So when I show up, right, in my external world, my internal world doesn't have to match my external world, but I am okay with my internal home because my identity is a person that is trustworthy. My identity is a person that's compassionate. Now, what happens when we have competing values? What do people think about that? What happens when we have values that compete?
Can you give us an example?
Self-respect and compassion. The person's late half an hour all the time.
Oh,
So I have a value of self-respect. And I also recognize that I have a value of compassion.
I'm thinking,
well, in that case, I would just modify. I guess I would say I would modify to adjust to that person's behavior. So I would modify the rules.
Okay, tell me more.
Well, if they're always half an hour late, I'll tell them to come half an hour earlier so that they're on time. So if I say, if the party's at 11, I'll say it's a start at 10:30, so they come at 11 kind of thing. Or actually, no, actually what I would say, no, actually that's not true. What I would say is I would say them, please don't be late. Be mindful of it. I would just say, be mindful of the time. If you're going to be late, let me know. Or just come half hour earlier.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's a good
actually, that's what I
option.
would do. I would just say it outright that, you know, if you're consistently late, just be on time in a
And they
nice
tell
way.
you, and they tell you I'm late because I have 3 kids to put to bed and I really want to meet up with you. And it's really, really, really hard to do that.
Well, then I would adjust my schedule.
And then
If possible, I would adjust my schedule or accommodate that person.
then where does self-respect come in? These are competing values.
Mm-hmm.
But let's put a plug in there a bit. Well, maybe
Oh, yeah,
we'll
that's
have the answer later on.
Can I
Okay.
just ask something on that also? Because if she adjusts her schedule, how would she even know to adjust her schedule until the situation or the circumstance happens? So
yeah.
that becomes a challenge too. So it's like not valuing her time.
Yeah. That's good. It would have to depend on the person and the relationship and what it is. Because there's another value there, and that is if someone's really wanting to, they'll get their like for me, I would say if someone was wanting to, they'll get themselves together in order to make it. I can't hear.
We've lost your volume.
I hear it.
Oh yeah.
Hear me?
Faintly.
Hear me now?
Yes.
No? Okay. Yeah. So I think good conversations, because those are things I want us to think about. Because what happens, we haven't focused too much on health, right? Because I wanted it to be organic to where you all are. But what happens when you have a value of wanting to be known for a healthy person? and people continue to put chocolate cake in front of you.
Yeah, you have to
And
set boundaries.
They're saying you're very low.
and
Yeah,
Yeah.
Your volume is low.
that's because I was sharing. Is it better now that I'm not sharing?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh,
So pretty similar. Maybe, I don't know if you can increase your volume somewhat.
it's at this max.
Oh, okay. Okay, we can hear you, just hear you.
Maybe I should just yell. Is that better? Is it the
Yeah.
same, Samantha, or is it better? Because I'm like
Better.
yelling.
Oh, it's better.
it
It's a little better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a
A little better?
yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm speaking really loudly. Okay. So let me go ahead and let's go through this part here, which is what shrinks. So that's what stays. What stays is are your values, your identity. We want to be able to keep that so that we can now make decisions based on that value. But we have things that needs to shrink, right? Habits, thoughts, commitments may need to be reduced to give space for greater growth and focus. Shrinking means moderation, not abandonment, for better balance, right? So we're shrinking these particular areas in our lives, right? So we want to be able to say yes or say no to different things that serve us, right? So hopefully by now you've landed on one or two core values that you want to focus on this year. And now we again need to think about, okay, well, how do we now connect what we consider to be the dots? So I want you to take some time. If you have, you could take a picture of this. You could take a picture of this slide, but we're going to spend the majority of our time here, right? Which is what shrinks. So I've come up with this acronym called Connecting the Dots. And so these are the 4 things that I feel like get in the way of us actually living out our values. So in the first column, we have distractions. So these are things that pull you away from your attention on what matters most. So excessive business or superficial commitment. So I really want to be able to go to the gym. I have a value around health, but I'm busy, 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 busy. I'm so busy. So we consider those to be distractions. Opting out, avoiding or withdrawing because it feels too hard. So we know that I want to be able, I'll use the gym again. I know I want to be able to work out, but it feels uncomfortable. I don't want to join that class because other people are going to see me. I'm going to wait till I get to the target weight that I want, and then I'm going to do it. These are opting out. Then we have thought patterns. Those are internal stories or limiting beliefs that you have that block you from acting out. And then we have self-doubt. These are fears or uncertainty about your capabilities, which stop you from fully showing up. So do we have a picture? Have everybody taken a picture of that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So now that you have, let me stop sharing. Now that you have a picture of that, I want us to now think about how do we connect those dots, right? So again, distraction is constant scrolling on social media, for example, and you're missing out on opportunities for real conversations, right? If your value is I want to have a deep connection. You're avoiding vulnerability or hard talks with loved ones because it feels uncomfortable. That's an opting out strategy, right? Thought patterns are things like they don't really care about me or I'm a burden if I reach out. Okay, so let's have an example. All right, so the example is a value of connection. So you didn't get the picture, so let me pull it up again.
Yeah.
Let me pull it up again for you. Oh, can't find my slide. My slide go. Let me put it up for you. Share. Okay. So we have distractions. We have opting out, thought patterns, and self-doubt. Okay, so for a recap, we start with our identity. Who do we want to be? In order to form that identity, we figure out what our values are. We have 2 or 3 values that we want to work on in 2026. And now we're going to talk a little bit about what shrinks. So what are the things that keep us from actually engaging in those values? Okay. You got it now, Vincent? Okay. So let's have an example of we have a value that we want to make deep connections and deep relationships in 2026. Does anybody have that kind of value? A goal? Okay. All right. So how would the dots barrier show up for you? So for example, under distraction, you would be constantly scrolling on social media, and that may make you miss appointments and real conversations or not actively listening. That's a distraction piece. So we have a goal. I want to be able to show up and have deep conversations and make deep connections with individuals. But distractions are getting in the way of that. So when I look back in 2025, I realized that I didn't have deep conversations. I didn't make deep connections with people because I was always busy. I was always on social media. I was always doing other things that were getting in my way of that particular value. I want to be the kind of person that shows up and has deep conversations with individuals. Distraction is getting in the way. So that's an example of a distraction. What would an opting out look like for you? Well, an opting out may be avoiding vulnerability or hard talks because it feels uncomfortable. So you're at lunch with your friend, they bring up something that's really hard for them. You avoid going deep, even though your value is that you want to have deep connections with them. You avoid and you start talking about the latte. That is an opting out strategy that you're using. What is a thought pattern that would come up in that particular scenario? They don't really care about me, or I'm a burden if I reach out. If I reach out to be able to engage in a conversation with a friend, maybe they think I'm a burden. Maybe they don't really want to hang out with me. And so that thought pattern prevents you from actually engaging in real conversations with your friend. How about self-doubt? Maybe you would have something like worrying you're not worthy of close relationships or that you would be rejected. You're thinking that you're going to be rejected, so you don't engage and you don't take the risk to make connections with people that you want to. So we shrink distractions by setting intentional boundaries, right? We shrink opting out by acknowledging discomfort as a sign you're growing, not as a signal to quit. We shrink negative thought patterns by questioning and reframing them. Maybe they do care. And we shrink self-doubt by recognizing your inherent worth and past positive relationships. Do you see how that works? Okay. So I want somebody to kind of think about another one. Let's think about one that is actually around longevity and health. And then I'll pass it over to the group to think about it. Okay. So your value is, I want to be a person that wants to be able to live long. Longevity and health is a value. Okay, we got it? Okay, how might the dots be a barrier for you? Okay, well, again, the same thing. Constantly strolling on social media, superficially being busy. So you're not going to the gym, you're not spending the time to prepare healthy meals, you're not engaging in physiotherapy, you're not engaging in things that provide you with a healthy lifestyle. Distractions. So everything else is coming up as important except for your value around being healthy. Okay, you're with me? Okay, good. Right? How are you opting out? Well, how are you opting out? You're neglecting sleep. You're skipping workouts because it feels hard or it feels inconvenient, right? You're not taking care of yourself. So you're opting out of that value or that goal that you have for yourself. Maybe a thought pattern you have is, I am too out of shape. Maybe a thought pattern that you have is, being healthy is too hard. Maybe a thought pattern that you have is that I'm not worthy of having a healthy life. Right? The self-doubt, you're doubting your ability to stick to a healthy plan. Maybe your self-doubt is that health is for others and it's not for you. Okay, so what do you want to shrink? We shrink distractions by setting time in your calendar, right? If you know that longevity is important to you, you want to be able to set some time in your calendar. You want to be able to notice excuses for not eating healthy or exercising. You want to recognize these are the excuses that come up for me that is in the opting out category. You may want to shrink negative thoughts by thinking and reframing small steps do also count. And you want to shrink self-doubt by building confidence and tracking your success. Okay. So I want you to find a quiet moment, maybe again 90 seconds, and reflect silently again as you read this prompt. Okay, I want you to think about your value, and then I want you to now do the exercise for yourself. So do you have the value in your mind? And this is a value that you're struggling with, not a value that you actually are able to live out. Okay, remember your identity. This is who I want to be. This is who I want to be known for. This is the value that's associated or tied in with that identity. So let me ask you the question, and I want you to write this down. What distractions most often pull you away from living that chosen value? I'll repeat it again. What distractions most often pull you away from living that chosen value? Now we're going to go into opting out. What avoiding do I do that keeps me away? So it sounds like it's similar, but it's different. So now distractions are things that are actually legitimate, right? Like I'm busy, I'm working, I have a busy schedule. These we consider to be distractions. Opting out are avoidance. So when I've chosen to step back or avoid acting on this value because it's too hard, people are going to judge me, right? So what kind of opting out have I been doing that keep me away from my chosen value? Third, what thoughts do I tell myself that stop me from fully embracing this value?
Dr. Spencer, could you repeat that last question, please? Thank you.
The thought patterns, what thoughts do I tell myself that stop me from fully embracing this value? Health is for somebody else. I don't deserve friendships. If I forgive them, they will be set free, and I don't want that. I need to hold on to punishment. I need to make them pay. I have a value of connection, but I'm not connecting because it's too hard. Vulnerability is for the other people, it's not for me. And the last one is the self-doubt. So what fears or doubts hold me back from living this value? Okay. Does anybody want to jump on and show and let me know what their dots are?
You want me to, okay. So I can answer, but can you repeat the question so then because I didn't.
No problem. So what is your value and what is your distraction? You're opting out, your negative thought pattern, and your self-doubt.
On longevity.
Longevity.
So the distraction, well, I don't know if it's distraction, but it would be money, because in order to do things, you need money to do it well, or could, but also I don't feel like it. It's just simple. Like I do, I do participate in longevity. I do a lot of things around that, but sometimes I just don't feel like it. And then I think to myself, so I don't do it. And then I think to myself, well, is this really necessary? And then maybe down deep, if I think about it, maybe is it really necessary? And you always think that it's not going to happen to me. I'm not going to get old. I'm not going to die. I'm not going to, I'm not going to shrivel. But is it really necessary? Is this going to be of value in the end?
Right. I love that honesty, and which brings us actually to a nice segue around what stops. So we talked a little bit about what stays, our values. We talked about what shrinks. So we have to find ways around reducing the distractions, identifying how we're opting out, reframing some of the thought patterns, and being able to recognize and confront the self-doubt. And what ends up happening where we tend to miss the mark is because now we're in our framework of excuses. So what stops are the excuses. Because if this is a value for you, and it is a true value for you, then everything else that you don't do brings you away from that value. And everything that you do points you towards that value.
But that's a good point, because when you say true value, is this and I think for a lot of people, when it comes to longevity, is this a value for them? And I think the value is sometimes embedded with culture. But that's just an aside.
Yeah. I think you have to do some work. I would invite you to do some work to recognize that, is it strong enough of a why? So if you don't want to be the kind of person that is known for being healthy, then that's where we end up losing the fight, because then it doesn't matter. We will choose the chocolate cake because it's not strong enough of a why. Will we believe that those things happen? Those are other people that need to work on that. I don't, until we get a disease.
Right.
So in that statement that I made, we have a negative thought and a negative belief. And that negative belief will keep us away from the value because it's not anchored enough into what we want. Okay. So the next one is, I want to be able to pepper in a bit of a biblical principle before we wrap up. So we often hear the story that Jesus, and he sees the fig tree, and he ends up seeing the fig tree from afar. And then he ends up, when he gets closer, he ends up cursing the fig tree. And we spend a lot of time talking about, all of these reasons as to why it is that, this occurred in biblical scripture. But one of the things I want to draw a reference to is that the fig was out of season. And the excuses is a valid excuse. It was out of season. But what happens is that the environment for it to produce was still there. Yet still, it did not produce. So we all have valid reasons, right? We all have valid reasons why we don't match up to the things that we are wanting for our lives. But at the end of the day, our Heavenly Father did not look at the excuse. He looked at the fact that based on what I had given you and how you had shown up, all of this wealth of information that you have here today, the environment created an opportunity for you. And in fact, the fig tree demonstrated, because it looked like it was ready for eating. So we leave here today looking like we have learned, looking like we have transformed, but we don't have the evidence. We don't have the results, because the excuses we have get in the way of the results. And Jesus didn't care about the excuses, because he had given that fig tree everything it needed for it to produce, even though it was out of its season. I'm going to wrap up with these last few slides. So what we stop are the excuses. And then these last few slides before we then transition back to the leader.